and welcome to Alabama Adventures, Getting Close to Bigfoot. Tonight, our topic is the Bigfoot trading post. And let's go down to Tallapoosa County real quick. And of course, Horseshoe Bend, that's one of my favorite places. But I'll explain a little bit more of that into the video while we begin the video there. We're here today at Horseshoe Bend. There's been several times that I have passed down this road or been coming out of the park, and I've seen an Indian standing right here leaning on this fence just like I was at the beginning of the video. He's not a flesh and blood Indian, he's a spirit. Several people have told me that they have seen him here. One time I saw him walking down the side of the road down there about where that sign is. But most of the time I see him, he'll be just like I was, with one foot on the rail and leaning over the fence. I guess he's watching the traffic go by. But today, what I want to tell you about is not something about Horseshoe Bend. I just wanted to come down here to try to get the video going. I want to tell you about trading with Bigfoot. I thought of this post, and I guess we can call the video Bigfoot Trading Post. Not actually a building with supplies and that type of stuff in it, but a actual trading post where I have traded with Bigfoot or Bigfoots over several years. And I'm going to show you some of the things that I've carried them, and I'm going to show you some of the things that they've brought me. Now, I know you're wondering what I'm doing at Horseshoe Bend doing a Bigfoot video. Well, if you just ride through several times, you're liable to see some Bigfoot signs here in the park. But this represents a post that we used to do a lot of trading on. The reason I'm here is I don't want to give away the location of the old place that we used to go to. I won't tell you the name, but it was in Tallapoosa County. But there was an old fence post similar to this one out there. That's where I'd leave gifts and talk to them and tell them what I was leaving. And I would appreciate them leaving me something in return. Now the gnats are real bad down here today, so if I go to fanning gnats, that's what I'm doing. But one of the first things that I left them was water, because it was in the summer of, I believe, 2005 or 2006 when we had a devastating drought here in Alabama. And I would leave a gallon water jug on top of a post, and you would be surprised at what Bigfoot left me. There was one time some eggs got pushed over to the back of my refrigerator, and I forgot about them being in there. But anyway, I brought him a dozen eggs down here one time, and of course I opened them like that, and there was a complete dozen eggs. I just set them on top of the post like that. The next day when I came back, I'll show you what I found. Okay, now when I got back the next day, I could still tell my carton was sitting on top of the post when I came down the dirt road. But to my surprise, this is what I found. To my surprise, what I found was all the eggs were back in the carton, but they had been cracked and put back together and placed back in the carton. The yolk was gone, but the shells, of course, now we had to put up with traffic down here. There wasn't any traffic where we were actually doing this feeding experiment, or whatever you want to call it. But it was very unusual that the eggs shells were put back together and each one placed back into the compartment where it belonged. But anyway, this is a post similar to the Bigfoot trading post, where me and Bigfoot did a lot of trading for several years. And now that everybody knows what we're doing, all they've got to do is wait till this comes out on YouTube, and they won't have to be so nosy wondering what it is we're doing. But one of my favorite things to leave them, and it seemed like one of their favorite things to eat, I won't show you the brand name, I'll show you the bottom of the can. It was a can of sardines. I left numerous cans of sardines. What I would do, I would open the can, and I'm not going to open today because park ranger may not want open sardines here at the entrance gate. But I would open them and put them on top of the post, and I'd come back the next day and the can would be empty. And many times I would receive a gift of some type from Bigfoot, not only when I left sardines, but when I left water and eggs. Almost everything I left, I got some type of gift from them back. So anyway, we'll go back to the studio, and I'll tell you more about some of the gifts. But just keep in mind that that post right there, that we're going to call the Bigfoot trading post, and I'll tell you some things that that I left and some things that Bigfoot left me over the years. Okay, we're back in the shack tonight, and we had to come on back. As usual, it's not doing anything here in Alabama but raining, so I decided we would just come back and I'll tell you about and show you some of the gifts that Bigfoot has traded with me. One of the things that I traded to begin with a lot was water, but that was due to the drought we were having back then. The second thing I guess that I traded the most was sardines, and of course an occasional dozen eggs here and there. But one of the first things that I received, or I guess that we received, Dorothy and I were out on location one night, and we felt like Bigfoot got pretty close to us. We could hear some heavy walking in the woods next to us, and we talked about him. We tried to talk to him, communicate with him, I guess. I went back over there the next afternoon to where we had sat that night, and of all things to find, it wasn't there that afternoon when we got there, because we got there before dark that day, and we sat there, I guess, till around 10, maybe 11 o'clock that night. But we were on a main dirt road, and we backed into this little logging road, or hunting trail road, and right there where the door would open, where I got in and out of the Jeep that night, was a candle. It was about 4 inches square, and it was about, I'm going to say about 4 or 5 inches tall. And over the years I have lost that candle. I wish I could find it again. I don't know what I did with it. I kept it in my shop for a long time, and now it's just come up missing. But the candle, we wondered where would Bigfoot find the candle. Yeah, I'm going to tell you what the candle looked like. It was a white square candle, as I said, about 4 inches square. And you could tell that it had been burned some, because the wick was black, or it was cupped out where the flame had been. What I'm thinking, what we decided that the candle possibly was a Christmas decoration, like people used to put on their tables sometimes. They would have a decoration of flower arrangement or whatever, and they'd have a candle or two sitting in it and would light it like at Christmas dinner or something like that. That's what it reminded me of, because it had red and green and gold glitter was on the candle, so that's made me think it was decorated for that particular time of year. Anyway, how did he get it? He could have got it out of a trash can. He could have got it out of a dumpster. Maybe somebody had it in their barn and Bigfoot rambled through and found it, and it fascinated him or caught his eye or whatever. But we wound up with it, and I was very thrilled to get that. That was the first thing that I ever received, that I know that I ever received from Bigfoot. The second thing was after we began leaving water in one particular place during a drought. I told on one other video that we did this for a while until I ran out of plastic jugs, and I told them they'd have to leave the jug. Well, so we were over there one afternoon, and I left a jug of water, and I just asked them, I said, leave me something big. I would like to know that if Bigfoot's getting this water, I would like to know for sure that that's who is getting it. Well, we went back the next afternoon, and this is what we found. Right where the jug of water had been was this bone. And I'll get a little better shot of this bone for you. Now, I'm not sure what type of bone this is, but I'll turn it around to where you can see the other side and kind of get a look at it. This was the second thing that I received from Bigfoot. And you probably can't see it with this camera because it's not a high quality camera. But I'm thinking it's some type of pelvis bone. This looks like a joint, and to me, I would think it was a pelvis bone. Now I'll sit back down and hold the bone up. Around the edge, I can see it right now, barely, but I can see it. It looks like where he chewed it with his front teeth. He left square teeth prints on it. It's not teeth prints like a coyote would make. It's more teeth prints like a human would make, or a Bigfoot is what I believe it was. several places you can tell there are, maybe he didn't know it. What I feel like is he decorated this bone. That was the only way he had to decorate it, and he just used his teeth to leave little teeth impressions all the way around this bone. That's something I'm very proud of. I intend to hang on to the rest of my life. That's about the biggest thing that I received from Bigfoot, and as I said, I'm very proud to have that. Now these didn't all come at one time. This is over several years of trading with Bigfoot. This is a piece of quartz. It was left on top of the post. This is another piece of quartz that was. I want to hold them in my hand so you can kind of get an idea of the size. This was a rock that was left there one time, and so was this one. All odd-looking rocks. What they're for, or what significance they have to Bigfoot, I'm not sure. Okay, if you remember a little earlier, I told you I was going to tell you a little story that happened with a can of sardines. Well, it concerns this rock right here. This is one of the first big rocks I received. What happened, I had left some sardines and I had opened the can. We went back the next day, the can was there, and this rock was actually in the can of sardines. The sardines were gone and it looked like the can had been licked clean. But this rock was here. And the first thing that went through my mind was, where the hell did this rock come from, and who put it in there? So I just picked the rock up and tossed it down in the woods, just tossed it away. But I left another can of sardines there, and the next day when I came back, this same rock was back in the, I can remember it. When I picked it up, as you can tell, it even has a little indentation here, and this little part right here would be good for your fingers to throw, similar to a baseball, and that should give him accuracy. Maybe he used this to kill a rabbit or some type of something like that, something to eat or whatever, but it just really feels good in your hand if you were going to throw this particular rock. And these are just two other rocks that we received on the post, on the Bigfoot trading post. And now I'll tell you the story behind all of these little tiny rocks. I'll lay them down where you can get a better look at them. Here we go. These rocks were thrown at us one night, and I had always told some members of the society, I had watched on TV where, and you may have seen it, where these guys were out somewhere, I believe in Canada, and they were looking for Bigfoot, and they said they got rocks thrown at them, and you could actually see some rocks on the roof and everything in the documentary they were doing. And I told several people I'd always like to have a rock that Bigfoot threw at me just for a souvenir, if nothing else. And these are some tiny rocks that got through at us one night, and I'll tell you about that. Now I had to go find me another pair of eyes real quick between segments there. What I want to do is tell you the story on these little tiny rocks. As you could see how big they were in my hand just a moment ago. Anyway, what it was, we were on location in Zana, and I know you have heard me talk of Zana and read about Zana on AlabamaBigfootSite.com. Anyway, it's a very mystical place down there, and I'm getting reports. As a matter of fact, I had some reports today, Bigfoot tracks and sighting and wood knocking last night in Zana with some friends that were down there camping. Anyway, what happened, we were sitting out there listening for Bigfoot, and we had heard some wood taps, and we thought we had heard some walking pretty close to the Jeep. Anyway, we got to hearing something fall through the trees, and we wasn't sure what it was. We thought for a moment that it might be acorns, but it wasn't the right time of year for acorns to be falling. So anyway, we kept sitting there, and in a little bit you could hear something hit the hood of the Jeep and sometimes hit the roof of the Jeep. A time or two it sounded like it hit the windshield or maybe the back glass or side glass or whatever. We were sitting in a chair out in a little dirt road there, listening and hoping that we would come in contact with Bigfoot or see one. Anyway, like I said, I had always told people that I'd like to have a rock that Bigfoot threw at me, and I didn't know that that's what was going on at the time. But anyway, whenever we started to leave, of course we had flashlights when we were leaving, and I shined up on the hood, and 2 or 3 of those rocks were laying on the hood. Well, we decided that that's what it was, that Bigfoot was playing with us that night by just throwing these little tiny pebbles. So before we left, I took the flashlight and looked real good on the roof and on the hood, around the bumpers, everywhere on the windshield wipers, anywhere a rock could get stuck or whatever. And I found those on the hood and the roof of the Jeep that night. So I wound up with some rocks that Bigfoot did throw at me, and I'm very proud to have those. And about 3 other rocks that I want to show you that I got are kind of a little different shape from the others. These 2 rocks were long. They look like they've been in a creek or a river. They look water washed. I believe that's how you pronounce it, water washed. But these 3 were laying on the post one day when we went over there, and I want you to listen to this. I'm gonna hold this one in my hand flat. Maybe that was one of their signal rocks, but this one sounds better. You have probably heard this. And it could be the way that they talk to each other in the woods, similar to a Morse code. Like, you see that guy just come in the woods. Yeah, I got an eye on him. You think you could bounce a rock off his head? I'll check and see. Maybe, maybe not. But that's what I believe these rocks are ones they use for rock tapping signaling. Okay, now, as I said earlier, I have received rocks, bones, sticks, and one of the main things that I have received a lot of rocks, but I guess the next thing in line would be feathers. Now, I'll show you this feather. I received this feather. Sometimes I find the feathers like laying under the can of sardines or somewhere. I even found one feather one time with a rock laying on top of it, but on top of the post. But anyway, I believe this is a turkey feather. I'm not a bird expert or whatever that's called, but I believe this is a turkey feather. And this was a larger turkey feather that I received over. Sometimes the feathers, like I said, would be laying on top of the post. Sometimes I guess the wind would blow them and they would be laying down on the ground. I believe this is a hawk feather. We did a Native American ritual one night to determine totem animals, and I found out that hawk is my main totem animal, and I wear, with some other things around my neck, a hawk necklace. There's my hawk necklace. This is my copper necklace, and of course this is my red beads that are traditional with Creek Indians. Creek Indians, red was a very significant color to them, and they wore trader beads, I believe is what these are called, but they often wore the red beads, so I do too, in honor of my Creek ancestry that I have. Anyway, another feather, these 2 here, this one I believe is a buzzard feather, and I wore this in my hat, not this particular hat, but another hat I used to wear a lot. I wore it in my hat for a while, and this is another buzzard feather that I received. And I added the little leather thong and bead decoration myself. I use this now for smudging. Whenever I smudge an object or decide that it's time to smudge my house or whatever, I use this buzzard feather. And a lot of people laugh and say, well, why would you want to keep a buzzard feather? Well, in the world of totem animals, a buzzard is a very important totem to have. He's a very important animal in the world. And if you don't know why, I'm going to try to explain it to you. A buzzard cares about the environment. His job is to clean up dead animals that nobody else will mess with. And I'm sure you've been riding down the road and seen one like eating a deer that has been hit, or just about anything. There's just about anything that a buzzard won't clean up, and that gets it out of the environment, the odor, the stench, disease, or whatever that could be caused from a dead carcass laying on the road or laying in your yard or anywhere. That's the buzzard's important job, is to keep the environment and keep the earth clean, which is a whole hell of a lot more than most humans do. And there was at one time around 2005 or 2006 when, as I said, the drought was so bad that I had to have some surgery on my foot. It seems like after I got 50 years old that that's all I do is have to have surgery of some kind. But anyway, maybe that will get over with pretty soon. Anyway, there was there for a while that I couldn't walk on one of my feet, and I continued to carry stuff over there every afternoon, and I was hobbling around trying to get water out or trying to put out a can of sardines or whatever. And as a matter of fact, at one point I couldn't use crutches over there because the ground was so rough and everything. So at one point I had a walker. Made me feel like I was 90 years old using a walker. But anyway, you just have to do what you have to do sometimes. But I got out over there one day and I managed around and stumbled around, and I finally got the walker out. And then I got about halfway down to the post from the Jeep and remembered I'd left the sardines in the Jeep and I had to turn around and go back. So anyway, while I was over there, I just was talking to Bigfoot again, or to all of them, how many was out there. And I said, I guess I'm going to have to get me up a walking stick if I'm going to keep coming to see you guys and bringing you something to eat. Well, it was 2 or 3 days before I got to go back over there. And this was kind of hard to believe, but it lets me know that they understand what you're thinking, or they understand what you're talking about, and they do have sympathy or feelings. And once again, I'll say a hell of a lot more than most humans do. I went back, it was a few days later because I was having so much trouble walking. And when I did, this particular stick was leaned up against the post. It wasn't in as good a shape as it is now. It still had a few little limbs out from it, and both ends were, as they had been twisted or broke off. I came back home and smoothed everything up and took a saw and cut all the little limbs off. So I feel like that I told them that I needed a walking stick, and I would damn if I don't believe they brought me one. But that's just some things. Now you may go out and you may do some trading with them, and you may trade in a hurry with them, and you may get a lot of stuff. But the things that I've showed you tonight have took several years to accumulate, and it's just not a overnight thing. So don't think I got all these in like a week's time. It's been several years, one at a time. Not every day. Sometimes you would get something from one day to the next. Some days I guess I would forget to ask about it or whatever, but I feel like Bigfoot and I are good friends, or some of them are friends. I sometimes feel like if I got stranded in the woods that I might get help from them. But anyway, I just wanted to show you some of the things that I've traded with Bigfoot at the Bigfoot Trading Post. And I would like to say, as I often do, hello to Madison. Would also like to remind you that Alabama Bigfoot Society is run completely out of pocket. And if you like what we're doing and you're in a position to where you can make a donation, whether it be money or equipment, it would be very appreciated. And if you send us a donation of whatever kind, then we'll be happy to send you a free 1-year complimentary membership to the Alabama Bigfoot Society. And as I've said in the past, we would be glad to have you as a member. And I'll be looking for you next time on the next Alabama Adventure, getting close to Bigfoot.